We got our tumbleweed.
His name is Jeffrey.
I love it.
Hey everyone, welcome to the latest behind-the-scenes episode of the Stopwatch Collection. This week we made a time travel adventure comedy called Shuffle, and we were inspired by this, an old iPod shuffle that my wife Soraya recently found. We ran with a story where this little shuffle is secretly a time machine, and we fit a lot of different elements and locations into this week's film. So how did we make it? Let's take a look. To begin with, let's get this right out of the way at the beginning. We definitely took longer than 1 hour to shoot and 1 hour to edit this one. When we first started this series of 1-minute films, we gave ourselves 1 hour to write, 1 hour to shoot, and 1 hour to edit them, kind of a limitation on what we could do with these films. And we followed those rules for the first several weeks. But this week, as we headed into the production of Shuffle, we knew it was going to take more than 1 hour to shoot this one. We needed to film 6 individual scenes in 3 different locations. We used the house and neighborhood for the classroom and COVID scenes, the desert for the western scene, and finally we went down to the bosque next to the Rio Grande for the dinosaur and the World War II scenes. So with such a large variety of scenes and locations all fit into a 1-minute film, we definitely knew we were going to need more than 1 hour to shoot it. In fact, this film took about 3 hours to shoot, which included the driving time as we headed between the various locations. So let's take a look in a little more detail about how we worked on each one of these different scenes. This was both fun and traumatizing at the same time, you know what I mean? You ended up in like multiple battles and ran from a dinosaur and just like the whole 9 yards, right? So you can kind of have that vibe of like, you're sort of traumatized by it, but then also it was kind of fun, you know what I mean? And so we're gonna end with like a little smile there at the end, okay? The segments in this film were not only inspired by various periods of history, of course, but they were also connected with the genres that are most closely associated with those periods of history. So, for example, the first place that our character travels to is the Wild West, so we wanted that to have a Western movie feel, which meant shooting in a big dramatic wide shot in the desert. However, we were shooting this segment in an arroyo that was surrounded on all sides by houses, so we had to be really careful in setting up our wide shot to make sure that we didn't get any houses in the background of the shot. We were also hoping that the wind could give us that perfect tumbleweed bouncing across the frame kind of a shot, but we ended up having to fake that ourselves, as you can see. Nice, that was excellent.
Did it work?
I think so. All right, we're going to the bosque next.
Okay.
For the dinosaur segment down in the bosque, we decided not to show an actual dinosaur with CG special effects, but rather to just suggest a dinosaur using sound design and camera angles. The camera angle was my favorite part of this, actually. To simulate the dinosaur's point of view, we put my camera on a monopod and then I raised it as far as I could reach above my head before following our actress Chloe as if the dinosaur was chasing after her. Now, could have maybe used a drone here and that would have given us a smoother shot, but I actually like the shakiness that using the camera on the monopod gave us because it really makes it feel like we're inside the point of view perspective of a big lumbering dinosaur. For the World War II segment, we filmed next to some big metal structures down in the bosque that are used for flood control, but every time I've seen them before, I've always thought they looked like something out of a world war, so we decided to lean into that. In editing, I decided to add an explosion into one of our shots, which was not too bad to composite in since I had filmed that shot locked down on a tripod, which meant I didn't need to do any motion tracking to put the explosion into the scene. The trickiest part was that I needed to rotobrush our actress Chloe so that she would be in the foreground so that I could actually place the explosion behind her. That was one of the trickier parts of editing because rotobrushing is always a time-consuming process. That's one of the reasons why the editing took longer than an hour on this week's film. Finally, for the COVID segment, I shot and edited this to kind of feel like a horror movie because let's be real, all of our memories about March 2020 are kind of scary. I thought it was a lot of fun to include a COVID scene in the movie since our film at the beginning is set in March 2007, so we can actually go forward to a point that is in our main character's future, but that is past for all of us. Kind of a fun thing to do in a time travel movie.
Is that a wrap?
That's a wrap. Nice job.
Yay! That's a wrap. Now let's go get dinner.
Yeah. All right, that's about it. a quick look at some of the inspirations and ideas that went into our latest 1-minute short film shuffle, as well as some of the techniques that we used to make it. So now I'll ask you guys, do you care that we took longer than 1 hour to shoot and 1 hour to edit this one? Would you rather we hold tightly to those limitations for this series, or be a bit more flexible with it depending on what the story is week by week? Let us know in the comments, and we'll be back next week with our next 1-minute short film in the Stopwatch Collection. Remember, when you're making a film, every second counts.